What's really interesting about the day and age that we live in right now is entrepreneurship is cool. Entrepreneurship is a viable option. It's a path that a lot of people are choosing, aspire to choose, and that is wildly different than what it was when I was the age of a lot of the youngsters in this room. Being 43 and growing up in the 80s and 90s for my school years, kid years, there really was only one option, which was go to the best college you can, and that is the leverage point to the job. And I'm sure for a lot of people here, call it 38 and older, that makes a lot of sense. That was our framework. What's interesting about that framework was so much of my happiness and so much what I talk about is predicated on the circumstances of my upbringing, which were quite humble, being a Russian immigrant and going to Queens and Jersey and really like grinding out that lifestyle. And number two, just remarkable parenting. I am completely the byproduct of really, really great parenting, which more than anything else allowed me to not be suffocated by the fact that I was an atrocious student and allowed me to lean into that I had hustle. It's crazy to me to think back and think about all the teachers and all my friends' parents who told me I was gonna be a loser or I was not gonna be successful, even though I was making $800 a weekend as a 12-year-old slinging baseball cards. And I guess in a lot of ways, there's a lot of things I want to touch on tonight, including the reverse of everything I'm saying. I think one of my great fears currently is that entrepreneurship is cool and it is a viable option. And I believe that 90% of the people that sit in here and think they're going to be an entrepreneur are not going to be successful at it because it's ridiculously hard. And not that I want to say that to crush a dream. I want to say it to give people permission to fail and then to adjust once they get older, or even for the parents in here who decide to start an entrepreneurial career and instead of a job, and when it fails, I really am scared that entrepreneurship takes the place of a Harvard degree that I grew up with. There is no exact right way of anything. This is, if there's anything I want to get across tonight, it's self-awareness. You need to figure out who you are, not try to be like somebody else. And then more importantly, and in parallel, because I'm gonna jump back and forth of things that seem like contradictions, I think one of the things that we have to really talk about in the business world, and definitely in the parenting world, is actually meaning it when we say that happiness needs to be the North Star. I'm outrageously sensitive to the current state of the human race, and definitely the context I understand, which is a lot of different cultures, but definitely the American culture. There is way too much unhappiness in our society, and it's predicated on a lot of different variables, but the biggest one is, or not the biggest one, but some of the things that dramatically stand out is overvaluing other people's opinions, being delusional. The amount of ambition coming out of people's mouth that does not match the work ethic that they're putting in is the funniest thing for me in society. The amount of people I don't think people understand what they're saying. It's very hard to be a millionaire. The top 1% earners in America, top 1% starts at $430,000 a year. If you make $430,000 a year in America, you are in the 1% earners in our country, yet people throw around millionaire like that's just the beginning because I'm gonna be a billionaire. Look, I think this is a very special time in the world, and I think it's really funny. I always talk about don't be in the middle, don't be half pregnant. I pull from opposite directions. I have, a lot of what is interesting about me is I see very, very different people associated with my message. People that genuinely don't agree on a single thing politically or socially because they're hearing different things from me, and I bounce around and I've been thinking a lot about it. Parenting philosophy, entrepreneurship philosophy, obviously political philosophy, we are pulling further and further apart from each other. People are pulling in such opposite directions. Yet I feel like there's so many merits and so many different nuanced points of view, and I just think that we've become so one-dimensional and so absolute. I think we have to start talking more about allowing people to change their mind. I think if we make changing your mind something that is put on a pedestal instead of demonized, I think that would really help us. I talked about recently, I think I tweeted and I looked at it very carefully of how it was interacted with, that changing your mind is the ultimate strength. It's funny, it was with my dad the other day. I would change my mind all the time. I change my mind all the time now. And it used to drive my dad crazy. My dad's super old school, and he kind of thinks like if you said something, then that's it for life. And I just remember that quite a bit growing up, building the business, the wine store that my dad had, and I helped build to a big level. And he's like, 3 weeks ago you said that we had to put liquor in the front. And I'm like, I changed my mind. I listened more to the customer. I tried the liquor in the front. I don't like what it did. We're changing. And I think a lot about that now with my content, which is why am I so comfortable with trying things. I posted a video yesterday that was upside down on Instagram. I don't know how many of you saw it. And then a couple days earlier, I made a video where I just said like this post like 58 times in a row. And I've been using this hashtag in the 2 posts that, always be testing. And it's really my way to give you a nod of giving you permission. The like video did okay. The upside down video yesterday did not do well, and that excites me. And I'm excited to spend more time over the next, year or two of trying things completely left field to hopefully inspire people to, what I'm so unbelievably concerned about for everybody in here who's creating content, whether on YouTube or Instagram or other places, is you've become so obsessed with the number associated with the post that you're not actually even putting out anymore what you want to put out. You're putting out what you know is going to work. And that leads to real insecurity. There are people still showing way too much skin because they know that does better. There's people that are flexing when they can't afford to because they know that does better. There's people regurgitating other people's quotes because they know that does better. I mean, it's not working, and it's going to continue to decline in value. And I'm sure if you know anything about me, my number one thesis is producing content at scale right now. It is such an opportunity. I couldn't, I'm gonna beat this horse until not only is it dead, but it's buried and I throw a bomb on it. This is for everybody in here who's nowhere close or not at where they want to be, it is absolutely the most cost-effective way to start the process to whatever you want. It is about producing content at scale for as many platforms as possible. What's really great about you saying making something is just how early you are in it. People, a lot of my friends or people, they get frustrated with me when I talk about buying the jets, and they're like, when they ask me when, and I say things like 25 years, they're like so disappointed. And for me, it's like so remarkable. Like coming here with nothing and not even being able to own a jersey, to like, if I buy the Jets at 68 years old, that's an all-time accomplishment. People are so impatient, to your point, like it's real. Like to me, I'm so excited because you feel accomplished, and yet you literally are about to live 4 more full lives. Just the sheer amount of damage that can be done. Like back, because I want to put this record in your mind, like you're literally very likely, I know you could get hit by lightning, but it's very likely that you're gonna live 4 more full lives of what you've already lived. And when you start putting it in that perspective, that's why I say things like that, because it helps people slow down. One of the places I'm spending a lot of time right now is on people that are 60, because if you're 60, you grew up in an era where 60 was like where people died when you were 18 and 12 and things of that nature, yet it's likely you have 30 more years. So you're acting like you're wrapping it up, and you still have like a real chunk. You do. That's very real. And so I think humans really struggle quantifying time. And it's funny, I just said something, I used to do this all the time. I was so, it's funny, I associate with lack of patience because my ambition was so high. So I can respect where that comes from a lot of people. And I used to do something, when I first got into my dad's business, I was like, 3 years in, I was already crushing, and I'm like, oh, I've only been doing this for 3 years, and in 3 years, I'll only be 28. I'd get excited, and then I'd have 7 years into it at 29, I was like, man, and at that point, I'd really already made it at some level for the family, and I was like, oh, in 7 years, I'm only gonna be 36. And even to this day, it blows my mind that I'm sitting up here and I've only been in my career, all my careers, for 21 years. And for me to say, from this moment in 21 years, right, I'll be 64, and that's young. There's a lot you can do, and now I'm starting at here. At 22, I was starting with a liquor, you know what I mean? So I'm glad you feel that way, which triple excites me because you haven't started.
Yeah. How would you frame entrepreneurship to 13 to 15-year-olds in a classroom setting? What would be the best? What do you think?
I think it's interesting. The things that are running through my mind is, number one, making them realize that entrepreneurship is more like sports. So that would be something I would tell kids. I'm like, hey, kids, we're gonna talk about this, but I want you to know this is like sports, meaning I could sit here for the next hour and teach you how to play basketball. I can show you what a jump shot looks like, the rules, what some of the best players did about it. But then we're gonna go to the court, and some people are just not gonna be good at it. And entrepreneurship only plays out in real life, not in a classroom. So that would be the first place I would start, because there's nothing about the rest of school that maps to the reality of entrepreneurship. Right?
Yeah.
So that would be one. The other things I would talk about, probably I would start talking about the loneliness of it now, because I think that's something that we don't and didn't talk about a long time, that a lot of people are struggling with. What really sucks about being an entrepreneur is when you lose, you can't blame someone else. It's really fun to work at a company, because when you stink, you blame the boss. When your company fails, it's your fault. And so accountability, I would talk a lot about accountability and not being able to hide. And I would talk about a lot of mindset stuff. And then I would put them in the field and let them sell lemonade.
Will we have them create little apps and companies within the classroom, so then they have to market it to the rest of the school?
Yeah, I love that. But I think, as you know, that's a little contained environment, right. And it's great. But I would interject some of the bigger truths for the ones that go on to actually do it.